Hello, I'm Finley Hill here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and I'm here with a great man of distinction that's been here at the university for quite a number of years and helped so many people. And I have none other than Dr. Freddie Hartfield. How are you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you. How are you today?
Good, good, good to have you here. And I've also got one of his former students that's here with us today. How are you doing there, Mr. Luss?
Doing great.
All right, good to have you here today also.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Good, good, good.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Well, you know, it's probably not many people that wasn't your student that came through and have taken mathematics. You were such a great name that here on the campus of the university, and you've been here for quite a time, and I see that you're retired now. But let's go back to tell us where you're from. Give us your full name and where you're from.
Fred Hartfield from Elaine, Arkansas, which is located in Phillips County.
Okay.
I came to Pine Bluff, or this campus, AM&N, June 2nd, 1941.
Wow.
Reason for my coming here, I was seeking a better life in education.
Right.
Elaine did not have a high school for black children in those days. 8th grade was the highest that they had. Mm-hmm. So if I look at it, you may, one way or the other, I was blessed to repeat the 8th grade 3 times.
Oh, wow, okay.
But each year I'd learn a little bit more because the books that we used the year before may not have had as many things in it as the books we would finally get the next year.
Right.
So one may think that might have been a travesty or whatever, but you know, there's always a blessing in everything that goes on.
Definitely, definitely.
So I came to Pine Bluff. I was placed in the high school here, which is Jesse Corbin.
Okay.
I was promoted to the 10th grade, so I don't know how they got that. I guess some records must have followed. So I completed high school at Jesse Corbin.
All right.
And from that, I entered AM&N College. Now, during those years, high school students at AM&N going to Jesse Corbin were treated just the same as college students. We lived in the dormitories. You could not tell who was in college or who was in high school because many of the high school students were of age of some of the younger college students. However, we were given the same kind of scholarship that was available for college students to go to high school. I was fortunate, if we want to look at it, to become the milk boy, one of the milk boys.
All right.
But due to my work ethics and whatnot, I arrived at what was known as the head milk boy.
All right.
So what that meant was that I was to get the milk into the dining hall twice a day, morning and evening. We had 20 head of cows that we milked, and there were 2 of us. We had to milk by hand, and the cows didn't yield but so much milk, as you might know, but we were able to get whatever they gave. How a story of my milking and acquiring milk was that Dr. Watson was president at the time, and he was a man who floated around seeing how everything was going on, and we would bring the milk in to the dining hall, and the dietitian would check each day we came in, and she kept a running account of what was in the what we brought in at each time. Mm-hmm. So on this day, Dr. Watson wanted to know how much milk did I get. Mm-hmm. So that was a good day. I got 10 gallons.
Wow.
So that was a task that I was assigned. He wanted 10 gallons every time I come in. Well, that was a real task because cow's not going to give the same amount every day unless she's programmed. Well, what happened here, it made me become a little more inventive. I had no choice but to have 10 gallons. Okay. So now how am I going to get 10 gallons in the county and give 10? Well, I can't come in and not have 10 gallons because I would be afraid if I didn't have it, I would be sent home. Okay. Well, I had to improvise, and the only thing was left was H2O.
Okay.
So if I got 8 gallons of milk, I had 2 gallons of H2O. So I dubbed that as inventing 2% milk ahead of my time.
All right. Now that's outstanding to come up with that type of ingenuity at the time, because you had to make it work.
Well, I learned later that if I could get 10 gallons for the population, the student body we had, that would take care of them. Okay? So for that work effort, we didn't get any money. Matter of fact, I worked 4 years and got $29.
Wow.
So that was more money than I'd ever received anyway. But of that, for that $29, I guess the thing that Dr. Watson invited me in one day and said he wanted to do something for me. Well, I didn't know what. I told my supervisor, so my supervisor said, well, what have you been doing? I said, nothing. So he said, no, you're not telling the truth. He wouldn't be asking you to come in, you wasn't doing something. Well, I knew what I was doing in terms of the milk, and I felt he knew that too. So the supervisor told me he's getting ready to send you home. Well, I can't go home because I really didn't have no home to go to. So it took about, I guess, a month or so before that the supervisor finally would inquire if I had been in to see Dr. Watson. I said no. So this given day, he says, tomorrow, I have an appointment with Dr. Watson, and I want you to meet me at his office at 9 o'clock. Right. And you're going to see Dr. Watson today. I don't have a choice now. Well, I met him, and when the time came for his appointment, he requested that I see Dr. Watson ahead of him. So when I went in, Dr. Watson spoke in a loud voice, son, what can I do for you? Well, that excited me with the more dynamic speech he had. And I quietly said, I'm the milk boy. And he replied, oh, and paused. That pause really resonated through my mind. What was next? They called in the secretary and requested a checkbook. And she brought it to him, and he wrote me a check for $15.
Wow.
That was more money than I'd ever had at one time in my life. I needed shoes. I didn't have changing clothes, and boy, the boys thought I had lost my mind. But I was just happy. So through that, I got through high school and entered A&M college as a freshman.
All right.
And about my sophomore year, I got married. So I became a dropout once we started a family. And it meant then that I had to have a job. So I guess I had established a work ethic, and I was hired by the college. They had an opening for a teacher with less than a bachelor's degree. So I was awarded that position. And from that, I remained a teacher on this staff through the high school for the next 67 years.
67 years.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that's just an awesome story. I remember reading about a lot of your story and about how that your parents, your mother died at birth, and and your great-grandmother took you in.
My great-grandmother, well, the story of that was that my mother died shortly after I was born. And my great-grandmother was requested by my mother to take and raise me, and I would take care of her when she got old. Well, as my great-grandmother would tell me, that she told my mother, when I got big enough to work, her bones would be white. But the Lord didn't have it that way. But due to the fact of her age, the other members of the family did not want her to have me, which meant that became a division within the family. So my grandmother took me, and we was afforded really a cotton house. There was just a door entering, no flue or anything of that sort. So when I was about 11 years old, this all became available to us. So I had to design my, what I call one-room mansion. I'd been taking vocational agriculture with the local Smith Hughes teacher, and I had learned how to use a hammer and a saw, and a few things around what carpenters might use. So I cut a hole in this, on the south side of this little shack, and ran a stovepipe through there with an elbow looking up with a stove joint in it, and coming back down with an elbow looking down, and put a T-joint on that. And we had a heater and a stove in that little one-room mansion there, side by side. That was what we cooked, and that was our heating. In there we had a cot and a bed, and the 2 units to cook, dresser, and trunk. That was it. So we would work I would work for this man, and work for that at that time. A day's work was $1 from sun up to sundown. My grandmother would not earn $1. They would not pay her $1.
Right.
But at about 12 years old, between 11 and 12, somewhere in that point, I became the man of the house.
Right.
I was paid $1. I was able to take the lead role in the day hand gang, chopping cotton. So everybody would line up behind me, and I was paid $1. That was for a day's work was from sun up to sundown. Okay. Now many times we would have to walk to the field 2 miles to be there at sunrise to go to work. And we worked till sundown, then we'd have to walk back home at the evening. This was because the trucks was not available in those days as they are today. So the mules and the wagons were not available to haul the day hand, because the mules had to be plowing in the field, because there was no tractors at that time. So I prevailed upon her to stay at home and take care, and I would be the breadwinner.
All right.
So I carried out this operation until I was about 15 years old, I guess.
All right.
At which time was able to get an opportunity through my vocational teacher to come to Pine Bluff to go to high school.
All right, well, I tell you what, we're going to just stop for just a second and take a break right here on that, and we'll come back in just a few minutes. All right, thank you so much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's so good to be back here, and we're doing a interview with none other than Dr. Freddie Hartfield. He's a retired alumnus of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff here, and we have him here, and he's been giving us his story. And we're going to go back to the story, and we're going to start back. Tell us about what did you get your degree in? Because I know you were already teaching before you got your degree. So when you got your degree?
I was already teaching before I got a degree. My degree was in agriculture.
Okay.
With some minor notions in mathematics.
Okay.
Long about my sophomore year, I got married and started having a family. Then I became a dropout. So that meant I had to enter in the workforce. Well, with my work ethics I had established, there was a position open for a teacher with a background in agriculture with some little knowledge of mathematics through the high school. So this position was offered to me, and I accepted. So that began my teaching career. So I taught agriculture to subcollegiate people and math in the high school. This prevailed for about 10 years. I began teaching in 1947 March 1st. I got my bachelor's degree 1950, June 1950. From that point on, I worked then until I went back to graduate school and changed my major from agriculture to mathematics. So I obtained a master's degree in mathematics from the University of Arkansas in 1957. Returning to the campus, then I was assigned to the math department, which I remained in for the next 60 years.
All right.
From that time, while in school, I would continue to study, and I was fortunate to get a scholarship to participate in a PhD program at Kansas State University. So this was in mathematics. So I took a PhD in mathematics from Kansas State and continued to teach mathematics here. During that time, I was fortunate enough to study at various other institutions, UALR, and I was on a Fulbright Fellowship where we studied a little abroad. But my whole essence was in mathematics. As a mathematics instructor, I became a teacher preparation in mathematics, where I was working with teachers, public school teachers who taught mathematics, and undergraduate students who were studying to become high school teachers of mathematics. So I was classified as a teacher trainer. And this went on for the next 25 to 30 years. I was able to teach from the time of my beginning from every president and every chancellor that has been here at the university, which has spanned 67 years. So now, upon retirement, I am doing some of the things I enjoy. I have a love for agriculture. I still try to follow that. My other thrust is trying to establish scholarships for the needed, which we will always have. So, to my name, there are a couple of scholarships, and maybe we will talk about those.
Well, you know, I remember reading about the Hartfield initiative that you
Okay.
started while you was here to help students.
Happy to give
Tell us
them
about
some of
that.
I had in place the Hartfield Endowed Scholarship. This scholarship came with certain restraints and requirements that only the students that met those requirements would be awarded a scholarship. So I talked with some of my former students, one in which you might know, Bishop Chester Thompson at Camden.
Right.
We talked about students in need who doesn't have the GPA to get the scholarship, but they have the need, and if given the opportunity, they may succeed. So we came up with what is known as the Hartfield Initiative for these students. So at this point, we set out to raise $100,000 for this scholarship over a 3-year period, I believe. We've been fortunate. We have exceeded that 100,000. It is being matched through the post-secondary school of education fund, dollar for dollar. And at this point, I don't know what is in that. I have no idea who gets these scholarships. Our job is to provide the resource for that. And I'm happy in doing that. I don't have any money, but the Lord has blessed us to be able to reach our goal, and I'm thinking it will continue to grow.
Well, that's awesome. You know, that is something as a legacy that can always be here at the university, that the students that have that, you know, that was one of the things I've always remembered. But, you know, basically the scholarships was only given to the ones that had straight A's and things of that nature. But there are other students, if given the opportunity, would have the chance to go. And so many of them have made so much more and given so much back than we never would have thought they would. Well, look, I have a student here, a former student here, and I'm going to let him talk to us just a little bit. How you doing again, Mr. Love?
I'm doing great.
Good, good. Well, you know, I was talking with you earlier, and you told me that you were a former student. Tell me about what is Dr. Hartfield? How did you meet Dr. Hartfield?
Well, actually, first day of class.
Okay.
You know, math was really never a strong suit for me, but I knew that he was one of the top professors on campus in math, and as such, I had gotten registered for his class. And I said, wow, I thought once I left high school, that was all done in terms of algebra. And here it is, I'm entering college for the first time, and I'm having to go through this cycle again.
Right.
And of course, you know, with Dr. Hartfield, being on staff at that time, he was the type of teacher that, you know, connected with students. And you kind of felt like you just had an immediate rapport with him. So that, you know, was half the battle, you know, establishing that relationship with your instructor. And certainly that was a good thing for me, because this is a new experience, just being in college, and you're trying to connect with all these instructors, and you just feel like you're in a foreign land. But Dr. Hartfield, you know, he kind of make you feel like you're right at home.
Right, right.
So it was easy to make that transition at that point.
And I know you contribute a lot to who you are now was because of what you received and was when you were here in college.
Oh, absolutely. As I indicated earlier, I probably wasn't the best math student, but I will say that Dr. Hartfield was a great teacher, a great instructor at that time, and the pillars that he laid, the foundation that he gave us, you know, it was it was a blessing. And I really never thought I would be using algebra or any form of high-tech math after I graduated, because that really wasn't my suit, my major. You know, I just wanted to punch the ticket, take that course, and move on. But it was strange. About 20 years into my career with the government, I'm having to meet this subject matter again, algebra. I think our office was tasked to examine the projects submitted by the engineering department at the Arsenal. And consequently, they wanted us to go back to school to get this training in what they call economic analysis. And it involved a lot of math, high-level math. So I was one of the ones who was drafted to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, to take these courses. And I'm telling you, I said, well, I'm not sure this is going to be a good thing for me. But nevertheless, when I went to the course, it was amazing once we got started, how all of that background started coming back after all those years. And it was almost as if, I was kind of going back through his course. I said, wow, I remember this, I remember that. And I began to put all that together and literally almost aced that course. And I know the only thing that I could attribute it to was the foundation that I'd been given by Dr. Hartfield.
Well, look, Dr. Hartfield, I know we could go on and on because there's so many stories that I know that you can remember, and there's so many, and it's just so. But we want to just thank you for all of the work that you've done and contributed to the students here, and you never will know how many people's lives that you have made better. We're here with Dr. Hartfield, and we want to just let you know that this is an unsung hero of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff.